trials, tests, life's toughest challenges, illness, death. They burn like fire. They make you feel very, very alone. Hey, let's talk about that, shall we? First, welcome to Mornings with Bishop Robert. Thanks for joining me. I'm grateful you're here. My goal is to introduce people to the Jesus they never knew, and then help them get to know him and his word personally and better. So if our time together today speaks to your heart, then let me invite you to like, subscribe, and also share this with a friend. Well, if you're feeling alone right now, this is a word of hope for you. Let's begin with the bottom line. You don't have to be alone. You don't. Because I'm going to share with you a single promise right now that can reveal itself as the bedrock upon which you can stand with sure footing, even in the midst of flames. You know, there's a large difference between desiring a time of solitude so you've got the opportunity to reflect and remember well, and feeling abandoned. The pressures of problems and the pain of grief often send us into times of quiet reflection. But then there's the times when the problems appear to grow and overwhelmingly large, and they seem to block out the sight of all those we'd hoped would stand with us in life's worst moments. Times when we feel much more than solitude. We feel neglected, rejected, deserted, forgotten. We could even feel God-forsaken. But that bedrock promise I spoke of, well, it shines a light right into our darkness with today's verse. If you want to read it, you can find it in Deuteronomy 31:8. But here it is. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. And he'll never leave you or forsake you. So do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. You know, because he goes before you, you know that he is leading you. He's the shepherd who leads us through the darkest of valleys. Now, from your perspective, it may be too dark to see him, but he is there. Never forget in the darkness what you learned in the light. His love will sustain you, even when you're at your weakest moment. And because he will be with you, you are never alone. Now, you may only see it in retrospect, but the day will come when his strength and presence and support will be clearly seen. So let his promise strengthen you now, even if you cannot see his presence. Because faith is the conviction of things not yet seen. Let that faith strengthen you, even before you see his deliverance. Having to see everything you believe, well, that's worse than believing everything you see. Trust him. He's promised never to leave you or forsake you, so you are never, ever God-forsaken. You know, 3 Hebrew slaves once faced the most difficult day of their lives. A very angry king commanded that they worship an idol he had set up, and they were faced with a choice that appeared to have no good outcome. Because it seemed they could either abandon God or lose their lives. But they relied on God's promise never to abandon them. So they refused to abandon him. Now the king tried to make good on his threat to kill him. He threw them into a fiery furnace. But in the midst of the fire, they found out just how strong the foundation upon which they had stood truly was. And they learned they were not alone. 3 people got thrown in the fire, but there was another person who chose to join them in the fire. It was the Son of God, standing with them and protecting them. And so I repeat the bottom line. You don't have to be alone, ever. When you feel alone, you're not. He is always with you. Sometimes unseen, but never not present, even in the fire. So don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged. He'll sustain you. And one day, you'll see it clearly. So stand strong and wait, because you are not alone, even now. That's all we've got for today, friends. But before we go, can I ask you to help me introduce people to the Jesus they never knew and get to know him and his word personally and better? Please do like this video. Someone you know needs to have it shared with them because they're feeling alone. Then you should click like, subscribe. That way you get to meet with me every single morning. Hey, thanks for sharing this with a friend. As you do, you're part of the team, touching the hearts of folks all over the world with the love of Jesus. Thank you for helping.